I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. I grew up in Birmingham in the 1950s, which is a particularly difficult time in that city's history. I am the son of Lebanese immigrants. And I grew up in really a Lebanese village in the middle of Birmingham, Alabama. And it's hard to believe, even as late as the 1950s and the 1960s, that that village would have continued to exist. But it existed because there was so much oppression and persecution in Birmingham for those of us who were immigrants and Catholics. So the moment for me is 7 years old. It's a spring night, and we get a phone call, and all I know is my parents put me in the back seat of the car, and we race a couple of miles away to my grandmother's house. Now, grandmother in Arabic is Sitto. Sitto's house. She's the heart of our family. She's where all of our family gathers every Sunday of my life until I went to college. We would have dinner at her home. When we arrived, there's police tape everywhere, and fire is bursting out the windows and the doors, and there's that acrid smell in the air of burning wood. And we stand there and we watch the entire house consumed, and we do not know where our Sitto is. And what's even more concern is that she walked with a crutch. She had an accident earlier in her life, and she could not move very quickly. So in essence, as we stood there, we thought perhaps that we were watching her funeral pyre. Many hours later, she drove up. She'd gone out that night. A friend had dropped by, put her in the car, taken her out for a beautiful spring evening drive. But as the fire cooled, we discovered even more horrific evidence. Someone had broken into the home, had gone through it and collected all the mementos from the old country, from Lebanon, put them in a pile in the living room, gone back through the house, and this time collected everything that seemed or appeared Catholic. The statues and the rosaries and the crucifixes, and put that on the pile in the living room. And then on top of the entire pile, they added the family Bible. They then had doused that area with kerosene and thrown kerosene around the house and lit the match and fled. The days following that horrendous night were angry and bitter and resentful. And there was much discussion of getting back and getting even. And 5 days later, we were in another dining room with my grandmother after Mass on Sunday. And on this day, as we sat at cardboard tables and plywood tables and folding chairs, and my grandmother was in the center of the room with her sons and daughters at the center table. And we were all waiting for what she would say. And after she said grace, she kind of looked down, and her glasses slid down her nose, and she looked out over the room. She looked, I think, at every person in the room. And then she spoke these words. She said, "No hate. No hate. We move forward. No hate." And in that moment, 7, 8-year-old, I said, I want to know where she gets that strength. And what was also evident is that in that moment, she changed our family. All the anger and the acrimony and the bitterness that I'd been hearing for days, it was gone. And the family lifted itself back up, and we moved forward. And I've never forgotten that moment. And I hope that in many ways, my life and my work is about what I learned from her. That we're all humans, we're all together, we're all trying to serve God in our own ways. And there's just not enough time for hate and acrimony and bitterness.